You didn't start a business. You just built a prison for yourself.
So I'm gonna ask you something. Did you start a business to find freedom, but now you just feel, well, more trapped than ever before? If that's you, you really need to stick around. We are diving into a book that has, and I'm not exaggerating, saved millions of small businesses from total collapse. It's called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber, and it kicks off with a question that, let's just say it might sting a little bit. Oof. Yeah, that one hits a little too close to home for a lot of people, doesn't it? It's the huge paradox of being an entrepreneur. You know, you take this massive leap because you want freedom, you want to be your own boss, but then you blink, a couple of years have passed, and you're working 80 hours a week. You're chained to this thing you created, and you are completely trapped by the very thing that was supposed to set you free. It's so true. And Gerber, thankfully, gives us a roadmap to get out of that exact trap. So first, we're gonna tear down this great lie that gets us all stuck. Then, we're gonna look at this war that's happening inside every single business owner. And after we've seen the problem, we get to the solution. This incredible aha moment called the franchise prototype. This is literally the key to building what he calls your freedom machine. And finally, understanding what your real job is supposed to be. Okay, so let's get right into the heart of this thing. The entire problem, the reason so many businesses fail, starts with what Gerber calls the E-myth. And it's all built on one single, totally fatal assumption. And pretty much everyone makes it. It all kicks off with this moment of inspiration, or maybe delusion, that Gerber has the perfect name for. He calls it the entrepreneurial seizure. And we've all felt this, right? You're a fantastic baker, you're an amazing coder, a brilliant graphic designer, and one day you just snap. You think, why on earth am I doing this for someone else? I could do this all by myself. I'm way better at this than my boss. And that moment, it is pure electricity. It feels like you're breaking the chains. But hiding inside all that excitement, that's the trap. And right there it is, the fatal assumption. The belief that just because you understand the technical work of a business, you automatically understand the business that does that technical work. Wait, hold on a second. So you're telling me that being a world-class baker doesn't mean I'll be good at running a bakery? That sounds totally backwards. That's crazy. That's it. That's the lie. And that is exactly why businesses started by technicians, the people who are amazing at the doing part, fail so often. So that's the big lie we tell ourselves. But the reason it all goes so spectacularly wrong is because there is a civil war raging inside your head. Gerber says every single business owner is actually 3 different people, and they are all fighting for control of the steering wheel. Okay, so let's meet the combatants. First up, you've got the entrepreneur. This is your visionary, your dreamer, the part of you that's always living 5 years in the future. Then you have the manager. This is the pragmatist. This person craves order, loves spreadsheets, and is always trying to organize the chaos from the past. And finally, there's the technician, the doer, the one who just loves the hands-on work and only cares about the present moment. Wow. Okay, I'm already feeling exhausted. And I know exactly which one I am. I'm like 99% technician. I just want to do the work. The other 2 sound like a ton of paperwork. And that is the whole problem right there. You're not just one of them, you're all of them. Now, in a healthy, mature business, these 3 are in balance. But in most small businesses, the technician is a giant, overpowering beast, and the entrepreneur and the manager are like starving little sidekicks. That makes so much sense. The technician just completely takes over and does nothing but work. You're trying to be the CEO, the COO, and the best employee all at the same time. I mean, no wonder everyone burns out. Now to make this super clear, Gerber tells the story of a woman named Sarah. And honestly, her story is the story of pretty much every small business owner out there. Sarah was a baker, but she didn't just bake pies. I mean, she was in love with it. The whole process, the smell, the feeling of the dough, seeing a customer's face light up, she just loved the craft. So of course, she had that entrepreneurial seizure. She thought, I can do this myself. And she opened her own little shop all about pies. I mean, that is the absolute dream, isn't it? I'll get to bake pies all day long, be my own boss, create something wonderful. You can just picture it, right? Painting the sign, the incredible smell of the first batch of pies coming out of her own oven. It must have felt like absolute magic. And then reality came crashing in, hard. All of a sudden, Sarah wasn't just a baker anymore. She was an accountant, a janitor, a salesperson, a marketing department. She was dealing with angry suppliers and trying to figure out payroll. The stuff she had to do to keep the business alive completely steamrolled the one thing she actually loved to do, the baking. It just became another chore. Her passion was just gone. Her dream had become her own personal prison. Sarah's story is the perfect example of the predictable life stages every business goes through. And, understanding these stages is the only way you're ever going to get out of the trap. You have to know where you are on the map before you can figure out how to get to where you want to go. It just makes sense. Okay, so phase 1 is infancy. This is where the owner and the business are the same thing. You are the master technician. If you get the flu, the business basically closes down. Sarah was totally stuck here, and it's where most businesses die because the owner just burns out completely. Okay, so the next step is adolescence. And this is when you finally get some help and hire someone, right? But honestly, that sounds even more terrifying. How do you even manage them? Exactly. The problem is you don't. You manage by what Gerber calls abdication. You basically just dump a pile of work on them with zero training or systems, and then when it inevitably goes wrong, you throw your hands in the air and go, see, I knew it. I have to do everything myself. Which, of course, brings you right back to square one. So the goal, the real goal, is maturity. That's where the business runs on systems, not on you. And all of this leads to what is, I think, the single most important, most powerful line in the entire book. If your business depends on you, you don't own a business, you have a job. Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. And he adds that it's the worst job in the entire world because your boss is a lunatic and you can never quit. That's the trap. You start a business to get away from a job only to create the most demanding, all-consuming job on the face of the planet for yourself. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the problem, which is pretty depressing. But now let's talk about the solution. And this is the big one. This is the game-changing idea of the whole book. Gerber calls it the franchise prototype, and it is a mental shift that changes absolutely everything. The idea is so simple, it's brilliant. From day one, you build your business as if it were the prototype for 5,000 identical copies of it. No way. So you're saying I have to think about my tiny little corner coffee shop as if it's the next Starbucks, or my one-person design studio like it's some giant global corporation? Yes, exactly. That's the secret. The whole goal is to create a business that is so perfectly systemized, so perfectly documented, that you could literally hand the keys and an operations manual to a complete stranger and they could run it just as well as you can. And the reason this works so well is that it forces you to stop being the technician who's doing all the work, and it forces you to start being the entrepreneur and the manager who are designing the system that does the work, right? So you have to document everything. How do we answer the phone? What's the script for greeting a customer? What are the exact steps for making the perfect latte? It creates a consistent, reliable, predictable experience every single time. And the most important part is, it makes the business work without you. Because as Gerber says, the system becomes the solution. And that allows ordinary people to produce extraordinary results. So, the franchise prototype, that's the what. It's the big idea, the mindset. Now we gotta talk about the how. Gerber lays out a really clear process for this. He calls it the business development program. And it's basically the blueprint for turning your chaotic job into an actual freedom machine. Yeah, it really boils down to 3 key activities that you're always doing. First is innovation, constantly looking for better ways to do things for the customer. Second is quantification. You measure absolutely everything. You manage by the numbers, not by your gut feelings. And the third one, orchestration. This is the big one. It really is. Orchestration is where once you find a better way to do something, you document it, you turn it into the how we do it here manual. It's the elimination of discretion. The system runs the business and the people run the system. Okay, see, that changes the entire game. You're not just guessing anymore. You have a playbook. So when you hire somebody, you're not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. You're handing them a proven, documented process and saying, do this. And all of this, all these systems, leads to the final and most important shift in your identity as a business owner. Your real job is not to be the best person making the pies in the shop. Your real job is to be the architect of the pie baking business. You have to make that huge, monumental leap from working in your business to working on your business. You know, this next idea, this one really hit me. We get it so completely backward. We start a business hoping it'll give us a better life, and then we end up sacrificing our entire lives, our health, our time with family, everything, to serve the business. We become its slave. Gerber just flips that whole idea on its head. He says the business is not the point, it's just a vehicle. It's a tool that is supposed to help you get the life you actually want to live. And that leads to probably his most counterintuitive piece of advice. He says the very first thing you need to do when you're building a business has absolutely nothing to do with the business itself. The first step is to define your primary aim. You have to sit down and ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like? How do I really want to be spending my days 5, 10 years from now? What's the real end game here? You literally design the life you want first, and then, and only then, do you build a business that is specifically engineered to give you that life. The business is just the machine that makes it happen.
So, when you put it all together, the message of the E-Myth is actually pretty revolutionary. It's not about hustling harder or working longer hours. It's about a complete and total shift in your perspective. It's about making a conscious choice to stop being a technician who owns a really stressful job and start being an entrepreneur who builds a system, a predictable, profitable business that works for you so you don't have to.
So, this all leaves us with one final question for everybody watching. Just think for a second about the most annoying, repetitive, time-wasting task in your business right now. Is it sending invoices? Is it answering the same 5 customer questions over and over and over again? Whatever it is, that's your starting point. So the real question is, what is the very first system you are going to document and build to start buying back your freedom?